These are all small things that have a cumulative effect, so if you do these every day, you will really see the benefit. We are talking today about 15 daily healing practices. I am in recovery from addiction, and with that new sober life over the past 16 months, I have found these things that we're going to talk about in this video incredibly helpful to stay on track with my recovery. Hopefully some of these will be able to help you as well. The first thing is to make your bed every day. This is one of the things that I track on my daily habit tracker star chart goals. I will leave a link to a video I did where I talked all about my habit tracker. It's like my mental health habit tracker, so you can check that out. And one of the things that I track is making my bed, because to me it is a very small thing, but it's a sign that I am doing well because it makes such a big difference when I walk into my room and see that the bed is made. The rest of the room can be a tip, but having the bed made just sort of pulls the room together, and I'm like, oh, it actually does, it reminds me that it looks nice when I actually put some effort in. The next thing is to spend time outside. Time outside I find is so healing, particularly if I can go to a green space, just somewhere where there's loads of trees, a nice walk somewhere that's calm, quiet, away from like a busy road, or even if it's next to a busy road, doesn't matter. Being in nature I find is really helpful. If it's sunny, that's great. Fresh air, lovely. Equally, I quite like it when it rains. Being out in the elements, connected to nature, I find is a very healing thing. I am very grateful that I have the energy to walk outside. I never used to, and now I can feel connected to something bigger than myself. I can look at the trees and be like, oh, look how old this tree is compared to me. I can look at the flowers, I can look at all of the insects and the animals, and I don't understand their ecosystem. I've just finished reading Finding the Mother Tree. I've done a whole video about it, which I will link. But in that book, she's talking all about how trees are all connected through this underground network via their roots and the soil and the fungus. Really interesting. And so being outside reminds me that I am part of the world, part of something bigger than myself. I talked about that book, Finding the Mother Tree, which I just finished reading yesterday. Reading a book is something very healing for me. And I do try and read every day because I know the impact of it, but I particularly notice it when I go a period of time without reading, because I'm busy, because I'm not that interested in the book yet, maybe I've just started it and I've not been gripped by it yet. I notice a big difference in those days where I don't read. Reading for me is like creating a safe space almost. It's getting involved in another world, something external to me. If it's a non-fiction book, like Finding the Mother Tree is a memoir, it's giving me an insight into someone else's life, getting someone else's perspective. What things do they think about? What things do they care about? What things do they worry about? Probably very different things to me. That again helps me to put my own life in context and not just think that everything is about me. To read and sit down and read for like 20 minutes, half an hour, it requires of me a level of concentration. I've got to focus, I've got to decide I'm gonna do this. That makes it sound like it's a big effort. It's not. I love reading, but sometimes there can be so much else going on that I think I don't have time to read, or I'm not allowed to read. And it's like, no, give yourself this space. Next daily healing practice is doing some skincare. Again, another thing that I used to neglect in my addiction, but to just sort of put some effort in. It's a grounding thing, and it helps remind me that I am worth putting some effort into. I quite like using a gua sha. That is a very fancy thing that feels really luxurious. Going through that kind of routine whilst putting on maybe some Lana Del Rey or some Alexandra Xavier in the background, something very flowy or feminine, that kind of music, creating like a nice atmosphere. The next healing thing is to stay connected with other people, particularly because addiction wants you by yourself, it wants you isolated and alone. So in a sense, staying connected is the opposite of that, which is very important if I don't want to go back to the dark place that I was in. This is an interesting one because it's not necessarily something I always feel like doing, because I am an introvert, so I do value time alone and I value my own space and quiet, but it is important even so to connect with other people, particularly other people in recovery, just to check in, just to remind myself of all of the things I have to be grateful for, all of these things that are on this list. I did not have these things before, so I'm very lucky to have the energy or to care about any of this stuff. So talking to someone in recovery, they can call me out. People are not shy, which I quite like. People are very direct and be like, hey, do you not think you're being a bit ungrateful here? But even if they don't say that directly, they will be talking in a way that reminds me, oh, I am actually very lucky, and maybe I'm complaining about something stupid, or I'm worried about this thing that I really shouldn't be given that much attention because it's not that big of a deal. We will also get onto that. Another thing is journaling. I talk about this a lot on my channel because I love journaling so much, and in terms of a healing practice that you want to get into, I think journaling might be one of the most effective ones in terms of like the time that you put into it. For example, if you do a daily gratitude list, that can take like 30 seconds. If you just write maybe 3, 5, 7 things you're grateful for, that's not going to take you a long time to do, but the effect of it will be huge if you keep doing that. So if you want one thing to take away from this list, one easy thing that will not require a bunch of effort or work, it's just going to require you to remember, maybe set a timer on your phone or something, just to be like, I'm going to write my gratitude list at 9 p.m. or at lunch, whenever it is, just to get into the habit of doing it. It will really change your life. It becomes a very healing thing as well. You then have this gratitude that you can always rest in, even if you had a rubbish day. Cooking or preparing food is also a very healing thing for me to do, because again, in my addiction, I did not care about this. So to spend like an hour or even just half an hour preparing things for the week, maybe I'll make some coleslaw and I'll make some vegetables like some courgette and some onion and pepper and put it with some thyme and tomato puree. Maybe I'll do some tempeh scramble or some tofu scramble, maybe some spinach and garlic or garlic kale. This is a very healing thing. Cooking, preparing something nice, something wholesome, something with lots of different colours, lots of different flavours. I had some Caesar salad dressing that I made. It's really not hard to make and it's delicious. So if you like garlic, I will leave the recipe that I use. When I make something from scratch, it shows that I care enough about myself to put that energy in, and that is also a healing thing. Learning to put myself first, learning to take care of myself. This might seem really basic, but it's a big thing in recovery. Walks and time with my dog are also so healing. So taking her for a morning walk, just going outside in the garden and walking around with her, even just watching how a dog approaches the world. It sounds silly, but like, she cares a lot about food. She's just in the moment. She's interested in what's happening. She's looking around at everything. Oh, what's going on over there? Who's this person? I want to go say hi. She's not overthinking things and being like, oh, but what if they don't want to see me? Or what if this dog doesn't want to say hello? Like, there are lessons to be learned about just being yourself and staying in the present moment. I think another thing is remembering that it doesn't have to be a big deal. I did mention this earlier on in the list. Remembering it doesn't have to be a big deal. I'm thinking of doing a whole video on this actually, because I do keep coming back to it. For me, it's about being mindful and just noticing patterns in my reactions. Am I always set off by a particular person or a particular topic? Do I feel myself tense up when something is mentioned or when someone asks me this question? Why am I having that reaction? Maybe then once I'm mindful of it, I can tell myself in that moment, okay, this is uncomfortable, you've been set off by this, but you don't have to make this into a big deal. Clearly, as with everything on this list, as with everything in general, I'm not perfect. Like, there will be times where I overreact to things or react in an inappropriate way where it's just like, why did you have to make a big deal of that? That was not something worth your energy. But I have noticed that gratitude, we talked about gratitude lists, gratitude journaling, gratitude, sobriety, and just the people that I surround myself with, I found that these make a big difference to the way I react to things, and if I can just accept things as they are instead of making everything a big deal. Music, unsurprisingly, has made this list because it is such a healing thing. I'm sure you have probably felt the effects of this, whether it's putting on your favourite band or your favourite song, or just putting on some nice calming background music. There are so many nice like ambient or peaceful piano playlists that you can find on Spotify or on YouTube. It is a really healing thing. I like to pair music with the next thing on the list, which is dancing. I like to put on some of my favourite songs, like favourite upbeat songs that are good to dance to, and dance around for 10 minutes. It is a really freeing thing and really healing as well. It's a really silly thing sometimes. I'm like, what are you doing? But it doesn't matter so much if I think that it's silly. It's more, this helps me feel connected to myself. It gives me a reason to put on some loud music and just move around. Another one that I think is pretty key, it might be quite boring and foundational, but it's very important nonetheless, is to do some deep breathing, or at least to just be aware of the way that I'm breathing, because if you are breathing very shallowly, you can feel more on edge for no other reason other than your body is just feeling more tense because you're breathing really shallowly. Like, it becomes this vicious cycle. So if you can take some deep breaths, that can help. It's weird to think of like your mind and your body as two different things, but that can help signal to your body that it's okay, we are safe, let's just take some deep breaths and calm down. I have done a video about my 3 favourite breathing exercises, so I will link that video if you want to check those out. They have all helped me tremendously. Another important thing that I think is really healing is learning to notice the little things. So things as small as listening to the sound of the kettle boiling as you wait to make your cup of tea, feeling the temperature of the water as you wash your face, we talked about skincare, having the windows open and feeling the cool breeze. I'm really hot at the moment, so I'm waiting for it to be evening so I can open all the windows and feel cool. Noticing the little things is such a healing thing because we can get so caught up in things that we're worried about happening or things that we feel bad about or that are just causing us pain. We can live in the past or in the future, but noticing the little things can help us return to now and see that however bad our situation is, there are still small things to be grateful for and small things to appreciate. Linked to the music one, this is something that has really helped me and that I have got back into recently, but playing the piano I find is such a healing thing. This helped me so much in like 2016, I think it was. There was one year or so that I was really into piano, like playing piano for hours a day because I found it so cathartic. I know not everyone will have a piano, ours was my cousin's, but if you have a keyboard, it doesn't necessarily have to be a piano either. I think maybe this links in with the music one, can add just another dimension that is also very healing. I'm sat here with my candle because something that helps me every day is to connect spiritually with the world, and for a lot of people a candle can be a symbol of that spiritual connection. You can light a candle and think of someone. Lighting a candle can just set a reflective vibe. I'm nearly blowing it out. I'm gonna put it down now. But it's still there, you can see it reflected in my glasses. For me, this is a daily healing practice to have some spiritual connection with the world, because in my recovery that's just a very big part of my everyday life. You mentioned music, putting on some reflective, calm music to set the mood along with lighting a candle can be a good idea as well. Just using music throughout the day to regulate my mood I found has been really good. So these are my daily healing practices, and I'm very grateful to care about these things and have the energy to do these things in my recovery. Which of these resonate with you, or which of these do you find most helpful, or is there something that I have missed and that you were expecting to be on this list because you find it so helpful and I've not mentioned it here? Please comment below your thoughts. I would love to hear from you. I will leave my video Change Your Life by focusing on the little things, because I did mention how noticing the little things is such a healing thing. So if you resonated with that tip, you might like that video. I will also leave 15 free ways to romanticize your life. That ties in nicely with some of the things that we've been talking about in this video as well. God bless, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.